It is June 3rd. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens lunch hour live stream. It is a Tuesday. Partner heads to Switzerland tomorrow for her well-deserved vacation. We'll send you off accordingly on the back end. And I do have one more thing for us. But first, welcome inside the vault. We're so glad you're here. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification bell. Perhaps this is the day that we hit that 500 number. We're under 50 and counting official channel members and Voltrons. What an awesome community that we've been able to cultivate here in recent months. I'm Bobby Trossett. She's Sarah Ellison. We've got a jam-packed show for you, beginning with Lamar taking to Twitter earlier this morning, Sarah, and he's calling out some NFL defenders. We've got screenshots. I'll tell you what that is exactly and why it's probably part of a bigger conversation that we've had for years inside this show since we started it coming up on 3 years ago. Elsewhere, James Jones works for Fox Sports on the facility. He weighed in on the Joe Burrow Lamar discourse, Sarah, with a very strong opinion. There's a prediction out there about one Nate Wiggins that's going to put the league on notice, perhaps, and some other statements as we look around the AFC North. That and much more is what we've got going on. That was a smooth way to start. Let's get it. How you doing, partner? Let's go.
I like it. You're feeling yourself. You're feeling your introduction. Yes, let's go. We'll talk more about vacation and all that in the one more thing part, but I am excited to have this one last day before I take off. And you know what? What a great way for Lamar Jackson to send me off to talk his talk about how NFL defenders hit him late and calling out the league. It needs a little bit of attention here, Bobby.
Yeah, we have talked about this again, like I said, for years. A lot of that is due to Lamar's abilities. We obviously know as a dual threat quarterback, this discussion, this debate, this topic point comes up time and time again. For Lamar, it seems to have taken a new life in recent years. And sure, some of it is over dissection, but I think you and I know that there are a handful of plays, some of which we're about to discuss and sort of remember and recount, that it's just, it falls along the line. It teeters around that Bush League type of concept that Lamar has had to endure and deal with throughout his years in the league. So why are we even beginning with this topic? Lamar taking to Twitter earlier this morning. Lamar Muse, by the way, put together this mashup of clips from over the years, dating way back to earlier on in his career, of plays that were very close, right? Either bona fide late hits, debatable late hits, anywhere in between. And you see Lamar Muse says Lamar has the worst whistle for a superstar QB in the NFL. Again, calling out the NFL officiating. Lamar endorses it and then some, Sarah, with this tweet earlier today that reads as follows. Gowd. Them boys trying to be MMA fighters towards me with a steaming hot, as if he is fired up, upset, and frustrated emoji. That's the quote tweet, Sarah, that's got everybody talking. And you and I are about to go down memory lane here with some screenshots of what this highlight shares. And I also went deeper too, that weren't highlights shared in this specific clip. But we've talked about it ad nauseum. Clearly, it's on Lamar's mind. He doesn't often share that frustration, Sarah, but he did this morning.
Yeah, and listen, as we go through these screen grabs, because since we can't show the actual video due to copyright purposes, listen, I don't know how this compares to all NFL quarterbacks across the league, okay? Maybe other quarterbacks could come up with, or other people could get a mashup of late hits for their quarterback. And I started watching this video by Lamar Muse, and I was like, okay, the first one was kind of like, okay, debatable, whatever. But then I felt like it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And what I do know is that you don't have for Lamar Jackson a cut up of plays going his way where it's like clearly it should have gone against him and it didn't, where you do have stuff like that for, say, Patrick Mahomes. Okay. So from a statistical level, I don't know how it compares, but I do know nobody's making a mashup of calls that Lamar Jackson got away with.
For sure. Well, let's begin with that one that you referenced. It was last year's divisional round game in Buffalo on that snowy, very cold night. And Ed Oliver here. Yes, Lamar is still in bounds, but Ed Oliver puts a good lick on Lamar. A couple different angles. Clearly, he is well out of bounds by multiple feet. Damar Hamlin behind him, almost as if to say, oh boy, I hope we don't get flagged for this one. Number 3 right there behind Oliver. And then, of course, Roger was there as Lamar's protector. He was ticked off. And I'll remember that. It was a little skirmish on the sideline that had to be broken up rather quickly. But to your point, this is one of those debatable ones.
Right.
Really, at this screenshot, Lamar is still in bounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I think this is where it becomes the debatable topic. Lamar in this moment, at the moment of this screenshot, as he so often does with other screenshots that you'll see in other late hits, he is giving himself up, correct? He is on his way out of bounds. The angle of his body, he is giving himself up. And so while he is still in bounds at this moment, players have taken it to a new level. Just push him out of bounds, right? Don't full on tackle him as he's giving up. He's giving himself up. That's my thought on it.
Yeah, so I feel like within the rules, I feel like he's fine. And you know what? Defenders are always going to try to give a little bit of a little extra thump or whatever. But when I watch this live, which you can't see here, he definitely grabbed Lamar's jersey to almost bring him back before he can get out of bounds. And then as he brought Lamar back, then he crashes on him. And so, but you know what? I would coach my defenders to do that. If it's illegal, you don't want to hurt anybody. You want to send a message to Lamar as a defender, or any quarterback as a defender, like, hey, if you're going to be running like this, just know I'm going to be here. So on this one right here, well, I do think there was like some unnecessary force when they're out of bounds. And I like that Roger got in there, because Roger wanted to send a message back. Like, look, bro, don't do unnecessary force on my quarterback. So I like all of that. But this one, as a referee, take Lamar out of it. Like, I wouldn't have called this particular one as a whistle, and I don't think they did.
Yeah, I think it's fair, and they did not. You're correct on that, which ultimately led to some early frustrations in what became a very frustrating night for the Ravens in late January. Okay, let's pick things back up at home, M&T Bank Stadium, against the Vegas Raiders. This one, again, similar in the sense that Lamar, at the moment of this screenshot, is in bounds. But 5 for the Raiders, Sarah, took it to new heights compared to that Ed Oliver hit. He pile drove, or at least attempted to pile drive Lamar well after he was out of bounds. So this is one of those moments. Again, this I believe went uncalled. Don't quote me on that. I believe this went uncalled, but this was another one that was relatively similar to Ed Oliver. And then there was another skirmish afterwards right here on this sideline.
Yeah, this one I'm actually watching live right now so I can get a better feel for it, because I'm not remembering exactly how this one in particular went down. But yeah, this one, it's hard for me. He's in bounds. He's starting to hit him. This one, just in the screenshot, looks legal to me.
Yeah, again, it's the same topic that we sort of began with on Ed Oliver. There's an excessive level of force. And obviously when you're a player that is giving yourself up, you become vulnerable. And so all of a sudden, watching Lamar as he is pile driven into the ground in a very vulnerable state, it just makes you kind of lose your breath for a half second. Okay, picking back up.
This one
Chargers,
was bad.
2021. This was about as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
Okay. Lamar is not only out of bounds, but this player for the Chargers decides to go low.
Yep.
He goes low, and somehow, some way, if you were to watch the entirety of this highlight, Lamar actually never fell down. It was insane. I don't know how he does that. Lamar does some things on the field that obviously, as we've watched for years now, are superhuman. Lamar did not go to the ground after this screenshot.
Yeah.
But this right here, when you go low, when you go around the knees,
and it's out of bounds,
player up, and he's out of bounds, it's just dirty epitomized. He's lucky to have walked away unscathed from this one.
Absolutely, we're on the same page. By the way, that Raiders one I finally just saw live. Again, it was in bounds, but for sure Lamar was giving himself up. It was so abundantly clear. Abundantly clear. Okay, go ahead.
No, just your turn to react to the Chargers one.
Well,
But I
no,
think
the
we're in
Chargers
agreement.
one is bad. I mean, I'm just with
Yeah.
you. I don't need to like give a long soliloquy after each one, but this one's bad. He's going low. He's out of bounds. This is how you take out somebody's ACL.
No doubt.
It's no good.
No doubt.
None.
Agreed.
Nothing good here.
That brings us to another super late hit here. And yes, it's bang, bang. And yes, it's the timing is incredibly difficult. We get it. It's a matter of fractions of seconds here. But this was December of 2021 against the Denver Broncos. Lamar, what you're noticing here, again, I wish we could play these clips. We just can't, unfortunately. We have to keep ourselves in order here, obviously from a copyright purpose and whatnot. But this was December of 2021. Lamar releases the ball, and what feels like, Sarah, a full second afterwards, 98 of Denver comes flying in and absolutely puts him on his back. But he went low. He led with his helmet, and Lamar, as soon as he got up, was furious. Dangerous play. Somehow he was able to get out of that one unscathed. And remember, it's notable that in December of 2021, that was one of his 2 seasons that back-to-back ended with injuries. So a difficult era of Lamar football there, just in terms of availability. But that one was a textbook late hit.
Well, you got the late hit part of it, and I'm tired of the low ones. I mean, Ravens defenders get called frequently for going low on quarterbacks. You cannot go low. It has to be above the knees. It has to be in the torso area, and that is clearly low. Again, this is the Tom Brady rule, so let's apply it to everybody. Do not go low on number 8.
If you guys are just tuning in right now, the reason why we're having this discussion, which is somewhat random, right? If you're just tuning in and you're thinking to yourself, wow, this is random. Well, Lamar tweeted earlier this morning, essentially acknowledging that, I'll read the tweet for you as we did at the top. He said, "Gowd, them boys trying to be MMA fighters towards me," with a frustrated emoji. So clearly this is something that's on his mind. Lamar Muse is a Twitter account, a fan Twitter account that mashed up a lot of these highlights. That's how we got here. Let's continue with some examples from over the years, and we'll go back to 2020. And stop me if you've heard this player's name before, Sarah, when it comes to dirty, cheap, Bush League kind of things in between the lines on a football field. It's the Tennessee Titan, I believe former Tennessee Titan. I'm not sure if he's still in Tennessee or not. Jeffrey Simmons. You want to know what comes to mind, Sarah, first? So it's not this play, actually, which was super dirty because Lamar had already been ruled down for what felt like ages, and Simmons goes in for a headshot, as you see here, okay? But that's not the first thing that comes to mind with one Jeffrey Simmons. I will never forget Marshall Yanda's final post-game press conference as a Baltimore Raven, where he was running hot. It was after the divisional round loss in 2019, and he claimed that Jeffrey Simmons spat deliberately in his face, okay? And that was Marshall's final press conference as a Raven before retiring. That's what comes to mind with Jeffrey Simmons. That's neither here nor there, but this right here was just plain dirty and out of line from Simmons.
Dirty with a capital D for sure. Like, look at him. He's down. And again, you can't see the rest of the play, but he just pile drives Lamar's head into the ground. Look at him. He's fully down. His waist, his knees, his elbows, everything is down except for his head. And Jeffrey Simmons took his arm, took his elbow, and all of his weight and try to pile drive his head into the ground. That for sure. Did that get a flag? Do you know?
That did not, based on the highlight. Lamar, yeah, no flag.
This one was dirty.
Yep. January of 2020. You know what? That would have been that fateful night. That would have been the divisional round game that they lost after the 14-2 season. January 11th, 2020. We're going down memory lane here. You can't go down memory lane all that far to remember this one. And of course, you had part of the transcription as well. This was opening month last year, week 3. Ravens were trying to avoid an 0-3 start, trying to close off the Cowboys in Dallas. And as you noted here, it was pretty clear. The Fox cameras picked it up. Lamar looked right at the camera, didn't mince his words. "Stop cheating us, bro." Now that has less to do with actually it's directly towards the officials. But as you noted on X here, this was after the drive in which refs called Odafe Owe for roughing the passer. Lamar took matters into his own hands after the comment, closed out the win, a much-needed one to avoid, again, that 0-3 start. But you remember this one? This one took the internet by storm last fall.
Remember that. I do remember that. So, yeah. I don't remember what preceded this. Oh, this was after the drive in which refs called Odafe Owe for roughing the passer.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, okay, this one, I don't even know. This one was bad. This one was bad where they were chasing Lamar, and Lamar is famous for getting out of pass rushers chasing him down. But it's a little bit difficult to do when the referee falls right in front of you. And was there a safety? Did he end up getting called for a safety on this?
Oh, yes, he did.
See, that's lame.
Yeah, I felt like this one, obviously goes back to the night that he wrapped up his second MVP, Sarah, as you remember. It was the Brock Purdy-Lamar game, right? And what are your weapons that you have around you? Brock's got everything, and the Ravens left absolutely no room for doubt on that Christmas night in San Francisco. But yeah, this one kind of went hand in hand as we're talking about officiating that he was criticizing last year in the midst of that Dallas game. Yeah, this official, obviously, you would think it was obviously unintentional, but at the same time, came back to hurt Lamar and the Ravens at that moment.
Well, and I remember debating at the time, everybody was like, oh, he was getting sacked anyway. He was getting sacked anyway. And it's like, you clearly don't watch Lamar Jackson. No, he was not. Then I agree with you that the ref, it was like unintentional, but like the way he was trying to get out of the way actually was the worst possible because Lamar was trying to hurdle him. He was thinking, let me get my feet out of the way and Lamar can run in front of me. But that didn't give Lamar enough room. Lamar was going to have to hurdle him. And so he curls up in like an upwards kind of fetal position, putting his leg straight up to trip Lamar Jackson. And so like everything the ref did was wrong. And I don't understand, like, it's just as strange to me. It's like with points on the line, I feel like you got to redo that play. I feel like you got to redo it. But I'm sure San Francisco would have been wanting to because they would have felt like they were going to get the sack. But I promise you, he was getting out of that end zone.
Once the photography hit, the internet friggin' broke that photo on the left, courtesy of the Associated Press. I can remember getting a ton of run, and you brought this one in from, I think it was a primetime game against Tampa Bay in recent years.
Yeah, and somebody had replied to the last video and said, hey, they missed one. And so Lamar, quote, retweeted this one too. This one was bad because it is straight up helmet to helmet, clear as day helmet to helmet. No call. None. Like, yes, Lamar Jackson needs whatever treatment Mahomes and everybody else gets. Okay. I think it should be all across the board the same, but like when in doubt, you know. And I think that they don't call it as much as him because he's a runner. It's because he can run. And it's like, no, you still gotta call a late hit. A helmet to helmet, a low hit. Like, doesn't matter if he's a statue quarterback or a dual threat quarterback. You got to call this stuff.
There you have it. A bunch of them to get started today because of Lamar's tweet earlier on. Sarah, not one chat, not one has mentioned the mustache gnome being the
one. They haven't in the super chat, but they've been talking about it.
Oh, they have.
Oh, yeah.
I must have missed it. Okay.
Oh, you did miss it. There's been lots of jokes about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up the Lamar discussion. We'll get to some super chats. And Heather McCubbins is gifting a bunch of Voltron memberships as well. Perhaps this is the day that we reach 500, even though it's not even a Friday payday for some.
Where are we at right now?
We are at 554.
You mean 454?
454, excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah. Confuse some numbers there. 454. We'll get to that in just a second here. John Robinson, former Titans general manager. He is sitting in on NFL Network earlier this morning, and he had some things to say about Lamar, the passer. The question, why, or I should say who, will lead the league in passing yards this season? Which quarterback Former GM John Robinson weighs in.
Yeah, I mean, he's got Zay Flowers, He's got Hopkins, he's got Andrews, he's got Likely, he's got Todd Monken cooking up plays for him. He's been an MVP in the past. I mean, they're knocking on the door of going to the Super Bowl. Like, Lamar, step back there and sling it, Daddy.
He said, "Daddy."
Sling it, Daddy. Yes, he did last year. Goodness gracious. He had over 4,100. I don't know what that was about, by the way.
That was the first time I heard that. That cracked me up.
Oh, yeah.
Step back and sling it, Daddy.
What on earth, John Robinson? Okay. Way to go. Way to go. I don't know where that came from, but I know that he's right. He threw it for over 4,100 yards to go along with, oh, by the way, a pretty decent rushing attack last year as well. So Joe Burrow last year, Sarah, just south of 5,000 yards, led the league, 4,918 to be exact. What a world it would be if the dual threat king ends up not only showing the balance that he's shown in recent years, being able to do it both through the air and on the ground, but actually becoming a passing yards leader on top of what he's been able to do in the other facets of his game. Be remarkable.
Yeah, I don't want to get caught up in that, quite honestly. Like, Lamar had over 5,000 total yards. And so, like, I don't care if the yardage comes in the form of passing or running. Now, we cared a bit in the past under Greg Roman when it was like you couldn't even get a passing game going and you have to threaten with a passing game. So in that scenario, it matters. But in terms of Lamar putting up just under 1,000 rushing yards and then 4,100 passing yards, I feel like that's a great mix. For him to lead the league in passing yards would be absurd. It would be absurd. And I feel like that would be something that you're like trying to do at the expense of running. And how many times were we like, whether it was in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs or a few times early in the season, or until his mom called him. Remember, his mom was like, "What are you doing? Like, start running. Like, it's right there." I think with Lamar, for him to lead in passing yards, you would be forcing it. And we would do it at the expense of him being able to take off with his legs. And so to me, that's not something that I want to go. I personally feel like he should go for. But yeah, can he lead the league in overall yards? Would love that. Well, I don't care if it's coming as rushing or passing, though.
No. I don't think it's out of the question. Clearly, John Robinson doesn't think it's out of the question either.
Oh, come on. Let's not.
What?
Like, out of the question, no. But like I said, I think you'd be sacrificing other things to do that.
Maybe.
You don't think so? You think he could lead the league in passing yards, and then how many rushing yards would he get? So he's got to pass for almost 5,000 yards. How many rushing yards are you putting on top of that?
A little south of what it was last year, 500-600.
I
don't think it's out of the question.
You're talking about 6,000 yards? Listen. It's not out of the question. It's out of the question that we could be hit by a meteor tomorrow. Anybody can say it's not out of the question. Like, how likely is it? You're being
what? You don't think it's far-fetched?
Yes, it's far-fetched. Especially if he's still going to be rushing for 1,000.
Well, that's
you just said just south of rushing for 1,000. That's essentially it's 1,000.
South of what he did last year. South. I said 500 or 600 yards.
You did not say well south. Okay, well now you're getting into my territory.
I told you 500 or 600 yards when you asked.
Oh, you said 500 or 600? Okay.
You're darn right.
Better. Okay. So right. 5 or 6 rushing. 500 or 600 rushing. Plus you got to hit 5,000 passing.
Well, okay. Look, Burrow last year there's no telling that's going to do it again this year. That was a heck of a year for him. And that was a prolific passing year for him. So who's to say that that's the number next year? Are they going to be able to are all quarterbacks going to be threatening with that number again?
No, but there's usually somebody up around there. But you're right. It would have to take a dip from other quarterbacks plus him sacrificing rushing yards.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's not out of the question.
We'll watch. Another thing to be watching. Okay.
All right, listen, you
Appreciate
started.
guys
I'm
for
going to come out and come back in because my screen's messed up. You start those super
Yeah,
chats for
do
me.
your thing.
Yeah.
Heather McCubbin's got us started earlier on with channel memberships. We began the day, by the way, at 452 Voltrons. So could this be the 500 episode? Just throwing that out there. So Heather gifted one and then gifted another. We appreciate you, Heather. Thank you so much for all the support. Let us know if you're on the receiving end of Heather's generosity. I see you, playa, with some New Zealand coin, as he's been hitting us with in recent weeks, which is super appreciated. And he writes, top of the morning, ladies and gentle skins of our Vault fam. Alofas from Auckland, New Zealand. What did we say it was? Plus 18? I want to say it was something like that. So good morning to you. John R. with a super sticker. We appreciate you, John. Thanks for being here today. And Dre Dog, Sarah 679 checking in, and you know his hashtag's ready to go.
He says, y'all, where is Travis Jones? I feel the Ravens have not mentioned him or shown him. I really hope he's good. Hashtag Sarah Sundays. I've seen him in some pictures and videos kind of in the background, but they certainly haven't highlighted him.
And another one from Dre, who says, more downfield passes, Sarah. It's possible.
Yes, it's possible. We're talking about likelihood. Here, let me put this out here instead, because somebody in the chat said this, and I way more agree with this. I would way rather be shooting for 50 touchdowns. Again, whether it's passing or rushing, I don't care. This is where, like, we're off here. Like, Sarah's doubting Lamar. Nah, Sarah wants Lamar to be his full self, both rushing and passing. That's what I'm getting at. But to me, I couldn't care less about the yards. I want touchdowns. I would love for Lamar. And this is a way better goal and something that I think is in reach, even more in reach than caring about whether he has more passing yards versus rushing. He had 45 touchdowns last year. Give my man 50. Give this man 50. That's a better thing.
We weren't playing a comparison game between the two metrics. Of course he wants the touchdowns.
No, we weren't. We weren't at all. And I agree. You weren't pushing that either. But like, it's more the chat that's like, you're doubting him. If Lamar Jackson set out a goal to lead the league in passing yards, he could. My point is, you'd have to like sacrifice other things to do that. And I want a complete dual threat quarterback. And to me, you would have to force it in order for it to happen.
I get it. You want what he gave you last year. Balance and variety, and let the game come to him. He gave you every single aspect. He proved that he can win a game in just about any single category last year. He didn't need to prove it, but he went ahead and did it in historic fashion. I get it.
That was the message from his mom, from everybody. You take what's given. That was like the theme. That was why his mom called him and yelled at him. And now here we are today. Oh, you're doubting him. He could do it. That's not the question. You take what people will give you, and hopefully that ends up in 50 touchdowns rather than a passing leader. Although if that happens, fine.
You remember only the hypersensitive audience portion is the ones putting words in your mouth about doubt. I don't think you've ever doubted number 8 in your entire life. All right, off we go. AFC North statements going into 2025. And who leads the way, Sarah, but a second-year player who kind of, as things went along and as he got his feet from underneath him last year, had more and more added to his plate and workload. And man, he answered the bell. This is a player that, based on some recent photography that leaked in the background, looks to have bulked up this offseason. Yeah. And that is second-year corner Nate Wiggins.
Yeah, so just a little bit more of a bigger picture of what this next kind of section is. As you like, ESPN did something, it was something like 100 statements or 100 predictions or superlatives, one of those, with 100 days left. So I grabbed some ones that were pertinent to the AFC North. Okay. And so they had this section called 10 Names to Know, and a little subtitle saying they will be big deals in 2025. Meet them now and get ahead of the curve. Now we're ahead of the curve for Nate Wiggins because we've been watching him, but this national audience that could be reading this, they may not be too privy. So ESPN writes, Wiggins was normally the Ravens cornerback, Wiggins was nominally the Ravens CB2 last season, starting as a rookie opposite veteran Brennan Stevens, who is now with the Jets. But he was functionally their CB1. Highly competitive and physical at the line of scrimmage, Wiggins played his best ball against his best opponents, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Malik Neighbors. I like that. Play your best ball against the best opponents. He wasn't perfect, but rookie corners rarely are. If he plays with greater consistency, he'll be considered one of the league's better starting corners. And the team is banking on that improvement because its outside corner depth behind Wiggins is perilously thin. He needs to be the guy. Get ahead of the curve, Bobby.
Wow. Well, he was ahead of the curve coming out of Clemson. The guy ran a friggin' 4.29. You knew how sticky he was. You knew how athletically gifted he was. You knew how fearless he was. And sometimes that fearlessness, Sarah, came back to bite him in a few rookie moments last year. But overall, it's hard not to agree with this. Every time he was tasked and given more last year, he answered the bell. And now, being that he looks to have significantly bulked up, that's what you want, right? Because the frame is slender, or at least was slender, apparently. And so if he is now combating that with an extra beef, look out, man. He's going to be even more physical, even more willing to put his body on the line. And we saw that time and time again last year. And again, Chase, Higgins, and Neighbors, 3 of your top wide receivers in all the land. The fact that he was willing and able to at least hang with them and compete with them and go blow for them in year 1 is telling.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be, he's CB1. He for sure is CB1. And I think he's going to have a breakout year where more people know him for sure. So I think ESPN got this right. Okay. Here's another statement from ESPN. This was in the section called 3 least improved teams. Yeah, they got worse. It writes. Now, Bobby, I pulled out Pittsburgh Steelers and I'll read what they said about him. But do you want to guess who the other big name team is in this list?
The other big name team.
Big name team that was least improved. In fact, they were number 1 on the list. Pittsburgh was number 3 on the list.
Oh, gosh. Least improved.
Yeah.
Can you give me a hint?
Yeah, well, this is going to give it to you. They were in the Super
give it
Bowl.
away.
They were in the Super Bowl.
Oh,
they may have won the Super Bowl.
I was going to guess them, but I didn't think that Kansas City.
No. They won the Super Bowl. I was trying to give you one of 2 teams. You took Kansas City. It was the Eagles because of how much they lost. Yeah. Because of how much they lost. They put Pittsburgh, or excuse me, Eagles first. They named all the losses. So.
I would have thought that's stunning out of the 2 teams. I mean, I had a 50-50 shot, and I was confident that it would have been Kansas City. Confident.
Yeah. So, but, I mean, here's what they have to say about the Steelers. They say the Steelers swapped George Pickens and Van Jefferson for DK Metcalf and Robert Woods, which doesn't feel that much better, if at all. They swapped Najee Harris for Caleb Johnson, which, again, doesn't feel great. The departure of Dan Moore Jr. at left tackle looms large on offense as well. Oh, and there's the little matter of the quarterback position. Even if Aaron Rodgers signs with the Steelers, I'm not convinced the offense is better than last season. And for the decently big chance Rodgers does not join the Steelers, this team is clearly worse than in 2024. Still, as always with a Mike Tomlin coach team, that decrease in team strength may not lead to an actual decrease in win total. I mean, I would hope it does. You don't have a quarterback. But, yeah, I wasn't inspired by the Steelers this offseason. At all.
No. Nor was I. They're going to play the Ravens tough no matter who's under center. As I've said time and time again, will it be Kirk Cousins, will it be Aaron Rodgers, or will it be Mason Rudolph, who's the only one of those 3 that's actually in the building? They also spent, a day 3 pick on a rookie quarterback as well. So hard to instill confidence in us at this point in the process with mandatory minicamp that is quickly approaching at some point this month for them. Aaron remaining unsigned. Kirk is in Atlanta. Perhaps another team, if not Pittsburgh, trades for him. But yeah, it's hard knowing that Pickens, in a lot of ways, was that offense, Sarah, last year. He is no longer. Yes, DK is an immediate upgrade and a physical specimen, but who is throwing to him? I can't get behind the whole comfort level jargon and messaging that Mike Tomlin has continued to put forth through the media with Mason Rudolph because of his familiarity with the system and this being his second stint in Pittsburgh. Miss me with that. I can't get behind that. And this is an aging team in a lot of ways as well. So more questions for Pittsburgh. I still think they're going to find a way to play the Ravens tough no matter who they have under center.
By the way, I didn't pull it in here, but the ESPN article also talked about, like, it's kind of crazy that TJ Watt is headed into his last year of his contract and there's no talks of extension. He's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't even know how to feel about that. Like, are they signaling that, they're not committed to him in the future? When you talk about aging, so we'll see what happens with him, but he is under contract for 2025. Okay. Here's the one for the Cleveland Browns. Question is, Cleveland on the clock? The Browns are the most likely team to end the season holding the number 1 pick in the 2026 draft with a 13% shot. So the ESPN analytical crew put together the teams with the best chances. Browns lead it with 13, then Giants at 12, Titans 11, Saints at 10, is tied with the Jets also at 10%. So those are the top 5 most likely teams right now to get that number 1 pick. He goes on to say much of that is due to a quarterback room comprising Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders, and a harder than average schedule. That's because they're in the AFC North. Partially. The Giants are rated slightly above the Browns in the FPI and have the second highest chance to earn the number 1 pick at 12% due to facing the league's most difficult schedule. And then he talks about the rest. So, at some point, if they're not even there was somewhere else in the article talking about, like, are they just going to tank for it? Will they tank? I don't know if people like Myles Garrett will want to do that, but yeah, the shot is pretty good for them to go ahead and get that number 1 pick next year. And I'm not even scared because it feels like they've like not taken advantage of so many number 1 picks in the past.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to have an opportunity to at least be within that top 10 category of next year's draft. I think they have a playoff defense there. I really do. I think for years running now, they've had a playoff level defense, and Kevin Stefanski as their head coach and previously as the play caller as well, I think has overperformed in a lot of ways. I mean, it's just a couple of years removed from this guy on the screen right here that you mentioned, Joe, coming in, and somehow after Deshaun goes down, they weathered the storm and found a way to make the postseason. Yeah, it was a one and done exit, but they had no business at the time of Deshaun going down being involved as a postseason team in January. So I do think that you would think that the main shareholders here or the higher ups, whether it be Stefanski and or the general manager, Andrew Berry, are on the clock. But this defense, as the Ravens saw last year, if you're coming in playing self-inflicted, not mistake-free football, they're going to hang around. And that's what led to the series split last year. So
based on everything you just said, which I agree with, I mean, here they're basically saying the Browns are going to have the worst record in football. Are people overestimating their demise in 2025?
Yes, I don't think they're going to have the worst record in football.
I don't think they will.
No.
And maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like somebody's going to finally stick it at quarterback, and maybe it's because, I don't know, sometimes when you don't know who your quarterback is and you have too many options, that could obviously make things worse. But I don't know, to be the worst in the NFL, they have to have like a 2 or 3 win season, maybe 4. I feel like the Browns are better than 2 or 3 wins.
I do too.
Yeah. All right.
I do too.
Unless they try to tank at the end.
Yeah. Which, again, taking an early peek at next year's quarterback class, teams could very well be tempted to do so.
Yeah. All right. Last one, which will be kind of a teaser into our next topic after we hit a few more super chats. But they talked about the playoff odds in each conference. Now, in the next topic, we're going to be talking about Joe Burrow. And he was asked about the Bengals not making the playoffs the last 2 years. But here, we see that the Ravens in the AFC North have by far the best chances of winning the division at 54%, but the Bengals are next at 29%. But even if they don't win the division, the Cincinnati Bengals have a 60% chance to reach the playoffs. That's the fourth most likely playoff team. Okay, it's 60%. So we're going to pause there because we're going to go to Super Chats and we'll talk about the Bengals in the playoffs and what Joe Burrow said. But if you don't make the playoffs when you have a 60% chance, and how many teams make it now from each conference? You got the 4 division winners.
7?
It's 7.
Yeah.
You can't be one of the 7 teams to make it when you're paying the money that you're paying on offense and you have supposedly an elite, top 5, top 4 quarterback. Then you got to be making the playoffs. And we're going to talk about that more on the other side.
I think we'll also continue to reiterate just how much of we mentioned the word, I think you did it yesterday, cakewalk for Buffalo. It is a cakewalk for the Bills. Now, I think you referenced it yesterday, given the strength or lack thereof of the division, meaning the AFC East. But it goes twofold, the cakewalk, because the strength of schedule, as you see here, which is reflected in their chance to win, right, the conference or the division, is through the roof. So it's 2 cakewalks. It's the division on paper, which it has been for years since Tom Brady left New England, and then the strength of schedule for the Bills. 2 cakewalks. And you would think they're going to be in the exact same position, or at least have a chance to be in the exact same position as they were last year, fighting for that top overall seed or coming in at 2, which they ultimately ended up the 2 seed last year. Off the Super Chats we go. Appreciate you guys for being with us today. Tilo, we have over 1,700 concurrents at the moment. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and maybe consider helping us get to that 500 number today. We are closing in on 500 official channel members, aka Voltrons, and we are so appreciative of each and every one of you. Let's see. Dre Dog gave us another one today, Sarah, and he wrote us, who's also a channel member. Mad Marlowe, Nate the Great, and TJ No Way, giving Tampa a little bit of love there with some strength emojis and corresponding nicknames for members of the secondary at the cornerback position. Well, you knew he wouldn't go away for long, and he wants to send you off accordingly to Switzerland tomorrow. Park Heights Prophet is checking in.
He said, Sarah going on vacay, 8 talking his talk. We need to hit 500 today. I don't have long, so the bottle for bottle begins now. Sound the alarm, raise the flags, release the Raven, starting 1 for Heather.
Release the Raven. That is amazing. Okay, so he matches, as he just did here, which followed the Super Chat, Heather's donation from earlier on. She actually gave us 2. So thank you both. We began the day at 452, so we are now at 455. Appreciate you, PHP, for checking in, as always. Joe Jenkins shows some love, and he says, let Lamar go with his God-gifted talents. Everything else will work out. Guaranteed. Go Ravens, go O's, and go Professional Bowlers Tour, the PBA. God bless. Love
Out
it.
of nowhere, he's got the bowlers in there. Love it.
Absolutely love it. He often emails us as well, letting us know what he's been up to as a professional bowler, which is pretty dope. Mike M. Sarah gets us to 456. And Park Heights says, I'm not done yet. I'm going to get you to 457. Thank you both, Mike M. and Park Heights Prophet. And another one, Sarah, from Joe Jenkins.
He says, at least bring Flacco back to retire as a Raven. He will for sure retire as a Raven.
You would think.
I don't even have a question.
No other option.
I have no question about it. When he retires, he will come back. There will be a press conference at the Ravens facility. There will be media everywhere, and then he will be immediately put into the Ring of Honor. He for sure is retiring a Raven. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to have his final season in Baltimore, which I would love. Yeah. But yeah, unless
you're going to hate
me. What are you doing?
Unless
you're just going to stir trouble up right now. Unless he wins the Super Bowl with the Browns. Is that what you're about to say? You're such a loser.
Unless he leads Cleveland to doing the unthinkable this year, it would have to be a consideration. Now,
here you are with your considerations. Is that out of the question? It's possible. You're so full of it, bro.
Amazing. I
Uh,
don't actually believe that. All right, I'm just getting you
Okay.
going. Just to
Yeah,
be
obviously.
abundantly
And I
clear.
knew exactly where you were going.
Tila says Bobby cut his stash and he's acting up. I'm
You know
acting up.
what? That's right. The stash somehow kept you in line. Let's go back to the stash.
Real clean. All right, off we go. Appreciate you guys for being with us on this Tuesday. OTAs have begun, by the way, the second session of volunteer organized team activities. Zay Flowers and Todd Monken will speak with the media tomorrow, so that means I will handle that and much more coming up on Wednesday's show tomorrow. But just a quick little show of attendance, Sarah, from Jeff Zaribek and the other notable beat reporters on the scene, making it clear that several key players, not a surprise, right? I can remember similar a drop-off last year after the first session. Several key players are not in attendance, at least for the media portion viewing of today's first session. That is Lamar, that is Bateman, that is Kyle Hamilton, that's Sanusi Kane, Cheeto Awuzie, Jake Hummel, Emory Jones, Kyle Van Noy, the vet, Ben Cleveland, Ronnie Stanley, Nnamdi Madubuike. All those players are not being seen right now at the first session. I should say the second session of the first day.
No, first day of the second session.
Thank you.
I got
First
you.
day, second session. Daniel Fa'alele is participating after not being on the field last week. That's according to Jeff. And of course, John Harbaugh referred to it as physical things that he was dealing with last year. So last week. Goodness. Fa'alele is back. That's your early attendance report. We'll let you know what else comes between now and the end of the show.
And is tomorrow media day? I mean, no, I know today's media day, but are they speaking at pressers tomorrow?
I don't know.
I can't remember. I
don't
know it's in an email we got, but
I think they have podium. I think
Today?
they have at least one or two folks at a outdoor, like it was last week, session for the next 3 days.
Oh, so every day.
I think so.
Okay.
So that'll give me plenty to discuss while you're gone, and we will obviously.
I'm glad I'm leaving during a busy time because it's so much easier to do a show when you've got mounds of content and news to get to rather than trying to look for it. Okay. Today is June 3rd. I might watch on backwards. Yeah, there is podium today at 2:30. And you're right. And you're right. There's gonna be podium again on Thursday and Friday.
Beautiful. Next 3 days.
All at 2:30 for you.
Yep.
Boom.
And Sarah, before we transition to our next topic, look at this. Richard just dropped a 5 spot in there. So we have now closed within 40 channel Voltrons. I believe we were at 457. This would now bring us obviously to 462. So under 40 out. Richard, we appreciate you. And here we go, Sarah. The run is on. Park Heights Profit says we're going to get you to 467. We're closing in on 30 channel members out from 500 total Voltrons. Richard, PHP, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for your support. Sarah, let's talk about Joe Burrow.
So what PHP said in his last super chat, he's basically saying whatever anybody else puts up, he'll match.
Oh, I missed that.
That's what he's saying.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, you teed me up great for the next topic.
Well, you shouldn't have
You shouldn't have told clarify.
You shouldn't have let Bobby Greed know about that now. Let me know that. Uh-oh. This is going to be a very interesting end of the show. Okay. Well, we're going long. We know that already. But
I love how you just called yourself Bobby Greedy.
Bobby Greed. Bobby Greed.
Bobby Greed.
What do you have for us,
Pardon me. Okay, I'll tell you what I have for you. I'll tell you what I have for you right now. We're about to let James Jones cook. I'm telling you, I'm letting him cook for 4 minutes. But before I do, let me set up why he's cooking. Okay, so Joe Burrow, and I respect this out of Joe Burrow, okay? I respect this a lot. I respect this so much. Joe Burrow was at the podium yesterday for the Bengals OTAs session. And essentially he tells them, the media, that if he had played better last year, the Bengals would not have missed the playoffs. Look at him taking accountability and having leadership. And I I'm going to remember this forever, okay? So Pro Football Talk writes up about this, and he talks about, hey, usually when people talk about why the Bengals missed the playoffs, they point to the defense. And I think rightfully so, right? Like the defense is bad. They ranked 25th in both points and yards allowed. And the offense had the 6th most points in the league. Okay. Joe Burrow, I believe, has the highest completion percentage. Okay. He led the league in passing yards, touchdowns, and completed more than 70% of his passes. Okay. But this is what he said. Now, to be fair, a lot of times you put up those kind of numbers because you're always playing from behind and you're really, slinging the ball around once it's the 4th quarter and you're trying to come from behind. So that definitely helps those numbers. But nonetheless, he did lead the league in those. This is what Joe had to say. He said, if I had played even better, we wouldn't have been in that spot that we were in. He told the team website. He said, I just focus on getting better myself. I feel like everyone in the locker room feels the same way. If I go out there and play better than I did last year, then it doesn't matter what goes on anywhere else. Okay. And I think he's right. Now, if you were to ask me, to be fair to Joe Burrow, if we're looking at the list of things that are going wrong in Cincinnati, Joe Burrow is not at the top of that list. He's probably not in the top 10 of that list. However, his statement still stands true. And that is where James Jones and the crew of the facility comes into play. Okay? They asked this question. Does Joe Burrow need to make the playoffs in order to keep his top 5 quarterback status? Okay? And I think that's a legitimate question. So they start talking about that, and James Jones is basically saying, Joe Burrow can't be a top 5 guy if you can't even make the playoffs. And then, even though the defense was poor, very poor for the Bengals, he explains why not making the playoffs for sure should also be laid at the feet of Joe Burrow, and I'm about to let him cook.
James, is it time to reconsider his top 5 quarterback
Why
status?
we not let the quarterback go first? No, because I want to try. I'm a yes. I want to see if you guys can entertain my decision.
Well, I'm not, so I'm finna just let the quarterback have it in this situation.
Let me go.
Right
Let's see
here.
it.
So first off, no, I am not going to have him in that elite conversation because I can't put him in that elite conversation if it's 3 years in a row you do not make the playoffs. All right. So now, I know the quarterback is going to say, well, his defense gave up 35 points a game and all this funny stuff and all that. So let's just talk about the losses real quick for Joe Burrow. All right, let's talk about it. I want to show y'all the losses, too. So week 1,
let's see it.
Look at them, right? So week 1, we're going to break this stuff down, too. So those is Joe Burrow's losses. So let's start week 1, right? Joe Burrow, loss.
Yep.
164 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks.
Ugly.
Jacoby Brissett, 130 passing yards, right? Played the same, right? His team lost, all right? Let's go to week 2. Joe Burrow, 258 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 fumble. Patty Mahomes, the defense ain't no good. That's why they lost that. Patty Mahomes, 151 passing yards, 2 interceptions by the defense. And they lost. Why they lose, Chase? Because he fumbled at the end of the game. Let's go to week 3, the Commanders, because we all know Jaden Daniels outperformed him in the Commanders game. All right, he had 300 yards passing. Jaden Daniels had 254 and 39 more yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown. And we know the blitz came down in his face. He made one more play than Joe Burrow. All right, let's go to the Ravens loss, because I want you to hear me. Let's go to the Ravens loss. That's all good. Let's go to the Ravens loss, right? Joe Burrow, 392 passing yards.
That's a lot now.
And 5 TDs.
It's a bad defense he going against now.
Bad defense he going, but then Lamar Action Jackson.
What he done do?
350 yards. 55 more yards on the ground, so that's over 400 yards total. 4 touchdowns.
Ooh, so he did more than...
How they lose that game, though? A Joe Burrow interception at the end of the game.
OT, right?
So let's go to the next loss. To the Eagles, all right? Joe Burrow, 234 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Jalen Hurts, more passing yards, a touchdown, 3 rushing touchdowns with his legs. He outplayed Joe Burrow and won that game.
Yes, he did.
All right?
Wow.
The last loss to the Ravens. All right, Joe Burrow, 428 yards passing.
It's a bad defense, sound like.
Oh, touchdowns.
Hard to beat.
Lamar Jackson, 290 passes, 4 more touchdowns. Had the ball in his hands with 2 minutes left in the game, went down there, took the lead. Joe Burrow came back, tied the game, 2-point conversion. It's one-on-one with Jamar Chase, and you throw it to Milton or somebody.
That was that one.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh,
I remember
I
that.
remember
Don't make the final play to help your team win that game. And then the Chargers. You watched the Chargers game. They was down 26-0 in the first half. So he came out in the second half, and he threw for 356 yards and 3 touchdowns. But Justin Herbert had 300 yards passes, 2 touchdowns. And his team won the game because he outperformed Joe Burrow. So the last loss. To the Steelers.
Is that right? 414 passing yards by Russell.
This might be the best one.
Okay. The best one.
309 passing yards, 3 touchdowns by Joe Burrow.
Okay, Joey, okay.
And 1 interception.
A bad defense, you bought out.
One interception, because we all know when Russ came in the game, the Steelers said, we ain't got to play defense. Right? Russell Wilson had 414 yards passing and 3 touchdowns.
He balled out.
He outperformed Joe Burrow.
too?
So in his losses, as much as we want to talk about the defense, Joe Burrow ain't delivered, man. Or he might have delivered, but the other quarterback balled a little bit harder than him and won the football
keep it real,
game.
dog. That was a good job, James. Yo,
You know what I'm saying?
that was a breakdown.
Kept going, not even get
Woo! Tila said it best. He's not just cooking, he's frying. Bobby, your reaction.
Oh man, 4 minutes. People were like, "Hey, let me kick my feet up and listen to 4 straight minutes of James Jones." I mean, it's true. It's true. Unfortunately for Joe, who again had a prolific year, really historic year in terms of the metric side of things, the mistakes came in extremely untimely manners. And obviously, we watched that firsthand during the Ravens-Bengals game, particularly the overtime game, because that was a game that I felt like Cincy coughed up, right? The Ravens won it, but in a lot of ways, I kind of felt like the Bengals lost that game.
Be more specific. It was
Joe
Burrow coughed it up.
Burrow lost that game. And Cincy coughed that game away. Joe coughed that game away. So, since the AFC Championship game, just to reiterate an overall point, the Bengals haven't made the playoffs. I think that needs to be reiterated, because had Lamar's Ravens not made the playoffs in 2 consecutive seasons at this point in his Super Bowl or bust era of his career, phase of his career, there'd be alarm bells ringing from all over, every single direction. I don't hear that as much for Cincy and Joe Burrow as much at all. And I don't know why. Is it just because he's the prototypical sort of like looks the part, plays the part, sort of the Tom Brady mold-esque, surgical in the pocket? He does have a little bit of mobility here and there, but he's clutch and things of that nature. Like, is that why he's become sort of the golden boy? I don't know. I have no idea why. But all I know is if a similar, really back-to-back years of shortcomings happened for Lamar, it would be a lot more noisy right now for 8 than it has been for Burrow. So, no, I thought it was well said there from James Jones, and obviously it's factual. It's wild to think that in the middle of what was his best statistical season, Sarah, and a historic one in a lot of ways, it's hard to think that there was room for blemishes, but he just outlined them. They were there.
To your point, why aren't the alarms being sounded? Because Joe Burrow gets the excuses. Now, this is a tough act to follow, James Jones, but I want to see if I can cook some more, because there is, let me add this to the screen. Okay, listen, yes, he has a bad defense, but let's talk about what Lamar Jackson has overcome versus Joe Burrow, okay? In points allowed, last year, the Ravens defense gave up 21.2. We know by the end of the year, the Ravens had the second worst pass defense. They were leaky, which is why Joe Burrow put up so many yards and so many touchdowns against the Ravens. Like, it was just like they couldn't stop a cold. They couldn't stop anything. So the defense allowed 21.2 points per game for the Ravens. The Bengals, 25.5. So we're talking about a little more than 4 points more per game, which is a lot in the NFL world, but it's not crazy amounts more, okay? Meanwhile, let's look at the offensive side. The Ravens and Lamar Jackson, we have to keep it real, has nowhere close to the weapons that Joe Burrow has. I like Zay Flowers. I like Rashad Bateman. You got Mark Andrews, you got Isaiah Likely. But let's not be crazy. Okay? Joe Burrow has Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and he has his own tight end too. And yet, the Ravens scored more points per game than Joe Burrow and the Bengals. And so Lamar Jackson with 30.5 points per game would have overcome that defense more often. And he did overcome the 31st worst passing defense in the league. Cincinnati Bengals put up 27.8 points per game. So you got to be able to overcome it the way Lamar has. And Lamar has way fewer weapons on offense to do it with. With fewer weapons, he scored more points. He led an offense that scored more points per game. Okay? Here it is right here. The Ravens had the second worst pass defense. Bengals had the 21st ranked pass defense. Ravens had a worse pass defense. Okay? Let's look at the quarterback betrayal index, which Mike Sando of The Athletic put together. Now, all the way up until December 19th, which is a vast majority of the season, Lamar Jackson was the most betrayed quarterback by his defense and special teams. Finally, at the very end, Joe Burrow became the most betrayed, but they are neck and neck. So
Can you say that date once more when this was?
December. Well, this graphic up here is when the season was over. And that is when Joe Burrow became the most betrayed quarterback and Lamar was number 2. Okay. But on December 19th, Lamar had been the most betrayed quarterback. In other words, they kept going back and forth.
Okay. So that would have been like week 16, maybe week 15, 16. Okay.
Correct. We're right around there. So both of them were dealing with either terrible defense or terrible defense and special teams. And I think what hurt Lamar also was obviously Justin Tucker and the special teams missing all those field goals and other things like that. So it's not like Joe Burrow's the only one that has to overcome his like bad play. Lamar Jackson has too. But yet when you talk about Lamar, it's always Lamar's fault if the Ravens don't come through. But when you talk about Joe Flacco or when you talk about Joe Burrow, it's like, oh, it's the defense. So he gets the excuses, Lamar does not. Okay? Let's go with that. So we've got excuses for Joe Burrow, not because of the defense, and his defense does stink, but so did Lamar Jackson's. Lamar overcame his better than Joe Burrow did. Then let's follow the money, Bobby. Let's look at this going into 2025. We know how much Joe Burrow spoke out to have both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins get paid. That's what he has to do. Therefore, the offense must overcome the defense. Lamar had to overcome this defense, but they were being paid. Your defense isn't even being paid, and you got weapons, yet Lamar's overcoming them. Look at this wide receiver. How much they're paying at the Bengals. They're number 1 in the league in how much they'll be paying wide receivers, almost $60 million. That's number 1 in the league. How much are the Ravens going to be spending at wide receiver? Just under $20 million. Number 31 in the league. Yet Lamar can overcome his defense and special teams, but Joe Burrow can't. Okay, so follow the money. And then so follow the money excuses. And then, the QB stats is Lamar's leading his league. So that's it at the end. At the end of the day, yes, Joe Burrow has a poor defense. Not going to take that away from him. And I appreciate, so I'm really more upset at people giving him excuses. Joe Burrow himself, this is not me bashing Joe Burrow. He himself said, I need to play better. Okay. So I appreciated that about Joe. But from a national media point of view, I agree. How do you keep getting put into the elite quarterback conversation when you've missed the playoffs 2 times in a row and you're being paid with wide receivers to overcome a defense that is not being paid as much? Lamar Jackson's able to overcome it. That's why he's being called elite. And when Lamar Jackson doesn't overcome it in the playoffs, he gets all the blame for it. Joe Burrow's not even making the playoffs, and yet he gets those excuses. So I agree. I think Joe Burrow is a great quarterback, But does he deserve to be in the top 5 after missing the playoffs 2 years in a row? No. So he can reemerge if the Bengals make the playoffs. He can reemerge. But right now, I don't think he should get that rubber stamp into the top 5.
Fair enough. All right. It's good stuff. I mean, look, I think stylistically, I kind of referenced it earlier on, right? I think there's a similar reason why Justin Herbert, in a lot of ways, is viewed as a golden boy, even though the resume doesn't necessarily back that up. Statistically, he's had some great seasons, but Justin has never really truly led his team to a deep playoff run, much less been, consistent throughout the course of a full season yet. But yet I think stylistically, the way that he and Joe Burrow play the game, even though Justin's a lot more mobile than Joe and a lot more athletically gifted, for whatever reason, they get the benefit of doubt, right? That Lamar doesn't or hasn't at earlier on points in his career. We should probably get back to, speaking of counting, you were doing a lot of counting there. We got some counting to do. Okay. Back over in the super chats and gift giving section. So we left off. I actually has been counting as well and tallying. We left off with 467 channel Voltrons. And Asmodeus and Park Heights Prophet, before we began that segment on Burrow, Sarah, gifted us each an additional 5 memberships. So thank you, gentlemen. Thanks to everybody who's been chiming in with so much generosity today and really every day. Joe Jenkins hits us with one, and it's a super chat. And he writes 3 last things. Have a great vacation, Sarah. Keep the mustache off, Bobby. And I wish you were still in Baltimore, even though I now live in Indiana. I'm currently in upstate New York, heading to St. Pete this fall. My stuff is in storage, a part of me, belongings-wise, is in Baltimore, and my plan is to be back and forth relatively often. Stay tuned for what my entire fall schedule might look like. I'm still fleshing out a lot of different logistics. Sarah, Mike M. and Park Heights Prophet hit us with an additional, oh my gosh. Okay, hold on here.
Okay, so
Mike,
you're saying before our break, we were at 467?
Correct. So Mike brings us to 468.
Okay.
PHP says 469.
Okay.
And 13 Tide says, hey, I'm going to make sure that I match the top donation so far today of 5. And that brings us to 474. Thank you, 13 Tides. I don't think we've received a gift from 13 Tides before. That's a new name that's entering the chat, if you will. RNTY1 brings us to 475. And I didn't even see these come in. Park Heights Prophet brings us to 480. And then 481, mark that down, partner. And Richard comes in with a super chat. Would you like me to read this one or you?
Sure, I got it. Calling him Joe Rivers now on calling him Joe Rivers from now on. Philip was the same.
Comparing Joe Burrow to Joe.
Okay.
Joe Rivers.
Philip Rivers.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Appreciate you, Richard. Joe Jenkins hits us with another one. It's funny. He just said that his last super chat was the last one, but he lied because here's another one. He writes also.
By the way, Joe Jenkins should not be confused with the John Jenkins that finally gets to go to OTAs now that Michael Pierce's post-June 1 retirement is made official. So John Jenkins is now at the OTAs.
Congrats to him. Backup nose tackle. He'll be out there for depth purposes, you would think, after Travis Jones. Joe Jenkins writes also, PHP should be a philosopher and author. Hey, PHP, for my money, this dude can do anything he wants. Guys just takes you know what, Sarah? He's got a hunger for life. Don't you think so? That's what he comes across as. He's got a hunger for life.
Yeah.
Purple and black checking in.
Someone get a chef hat for Sarah. She's cooking. Okay, so did I match James Jones? Did I get it there?
Oh, you took it to new heights. Park Heights Prophet, speaking of heights, says barbecue that fraud quarterback and team. You know why no alarms, Bobby. They give Josh and Joe every excuse in the world. The paper tigers couldn't bust a grape in a fruit fight. All hail Joseph Fraudulous Burrow the fourth. These get better and better, and I selfishly want to read them every time the way that I just did, because I feel like that's the way that he is reading these in his mind or typing these out in his mind. You're incredible, PHP. We are currently at 481 channel Voltron, Sarah. We're coming up on quick hits and one more super chat. But will we hit that 500 mark to send you off to Switzerland? Kobe Pruitt checking in.
Kobe Pruitt says Joe Burrow can't set fire to the defense and get credit for putting out the fire. Okay.
Well said.
Okay, Kobe. You know what? Kobe has some good super chats too, I got to say. PHP is poetic. Kobe doesn't miss either.
He's insightful. Kobe is insightful. DreDog679 with a new hashtag, spicy Sarah. Spicy Sarah.
It's just because it's like pre-vacation Sarah is what it is. I got a little too much energy here.
You already know. You're ready to rip it. I can't wait to watch and follow along and obviously hold down the fort here. Okay, quick hits. Over 2,100 concurrents right now. Please like the video on your way in. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell and consider sending Sarah off accordingly and getting us to 500 channel Voltrons. We're 19 away. Let's see what happens over the course of the next couple minutes. And Sarah, your guy, I feel comfortable saying that because this is your guy, Ronald Darby. Congratulations. I'll let you take this one.
I do like Ronald Darby for his 1 year in Baltimore. Adam Schefter yesterday announces another retirement. Veteran CB Ronald Darby, who played 10 seasons and helped the Eagles win Super Bowl 52, informed the Houston Texans that he is retiring from the NFL per sources. Bobby, why do I love Ronald Darby so much? Well, if you remember back in 2023, the Ravens had a lot of injuries at the cornerback position. Marcus Williams went down. Rock Ya-Sin, if you can remember, was one of their like earlier free agent signings in the process. It wasn't like a, post training camp signing. He was one of the earlier ones. And Pepe Williams that year, which we now know became too frequent, but he went down that year too. So right away, the Ravens were dealing with cornerback depth issues. So the Ravens signed both Ronald Darby and Arthur Maulet, I believe, during training camp. And Maulet ended up getting injured a bit that year, later in the year. But Ronald Darby basically took over at outside corner and played really well. Remember, that was the year the Ravens went to the AFC Championship, and the defense was the pass defense did not hit number 31 like it did last year. I can tell you that much. So I remember wanting to re-sign him again last year. And in retrospect, maybe they should have, because Brian Stevens, we all know what happened there. And Ronald Darby had played better than him for sure. So Ronald Darby, congrats on your retirement, and thank you for the year that you had in Baltimore. And I'm glad he got to go out with the Super Bowl ring.
2015 second rounder out of Florida State by Buffalo. And from there, he went on to play with several other teams, including, again, that stop in 23, Sarah, that you referenced in Baltimore. And he won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles and Philadelphia back in, what was that, 2017, I believe? So congrats on a career to Ronald Darby. As for Keaton Mitchell, trying to gear up and get back to his full self. As Ryan Mick noted here, he says he's set personal speed records in his training this offseason, which, again, he kind of alluded to the idea that he felt confident about how he's feeling right now on our show Draft Weekend, where he told us the next year is going to be a movie. That's the direct quote.
Yeah, he told us.
And
that
this quote,
yeah,
this quote, yeah, right here you go. I feel like I'm back better than when I first got here. It's going to be a movie for sure. So he's just kind of reiterating what we heard from him.
Personal speed records. That was new to me.
Yeah, I want to say it was over, oh gosh, what was it? Didn't we cover that recently? Was it over 21 miles an hour? Because I think he ended up on, well, he was definitely on the screenshot of D-Hop's Instagram story.
Correct. But I looked it up. He had a better speed time in one of the games when he was healthy. So at the time, it didn't look like a personal best, but he's saying that he did have personal bests during his training camp.
Gotcha.
But that was just the one screen, like picture that Hopkins put up. That wasn't during, the entire offseason.
I got you. Okay. I mean, hey, if nothing else, it's just his morale is kind of suggesting that he knows that he's close to being back to his full self. And last year, obviously, very small sample size. I think they were, intentionally conservative with him last year because they didn't need him necessarily. Of course, you want that explosiveness and you want that element of speed that he'll bring you, that breakaway kind of game-breaking speed. But when you got King Henry and Justice Hill in your backfield and Lamar, what a luxury to have number 34 out there as an option.
That's right.
Elsewhere, this was great. Honestly, I thought this was awesome. Lacey DaCosta, of course, wife of GM Eric DaCosta, is always so forthright on social media, Sarah. She's so genuine. She's a friend of the show. She's a listener and subscriber of the show. We're huge fans of Lacey. We're friends with her as well outside of this space. And as she tweeted out earlier this week, what an awesome, first of all, congratulations on 24 years today for Lacey and Eric, 24 years of marriage. And she included a little screenshot recently of him checking up on her, Sarah. And I'll let you read how this one went down. And there is a surge right now happening.
I know.
We just vaulted well over 500. We'll get to that and acknowledge all of you guys in just a bit. That's insane.
And by the way, Bobby, I finally figured out, so we don't have to count it ourselves, I figured out in Vault Studio how to get live up-to-date numbers. We are currently at, although PHP just put in another one, so let me refresh here. We are currently at, as it refreshes, 515.
You guys.
Woo! We blew by 500.
What an awesome way to send you off. And
He just did more.
can't wait to hit 700 on Friday.
Yeah. You text me when I'm at the top of the Swiss mountains. You let me know. We're now at 520. They just keep going. Okay, we'll get to them in just a second.
Oh, you were getting every last one of them.
Yes, sir. Okay, so Lacey DaCosta does a screenshot of her text messages with Mr. EDC. So here's this little text exchange between Mr. and Mrs. EDC. And he says to her, "Where are you?" And she said, "Walking on the farm." I would like to know what farm. I would like to go on a walk on a farm with Mrs. EDC. That'd be fun. He said, "By yourself?" And she said, "Yes." And he says, "Well, are you okay?" And she's like, "Yes." "Why?" He's like, "I don't know. I just got a hint of worry. I'm glad. Have a nice walk." And she replies, "I'm fine," with an exclamation point. Then he writes back. He goes, "I don't know why I had a panic attack that something was wrong or something. I almost just drank the, how do you say this? Kikkoman soy sauce, thinking it was Arizona iced tea."
Look, I responded to Lacey and I said, "Look, this is sweet and precious," but I laughed out loud at his last text. And I did. I thought it was hilarious because Eric has such a dry humor.
Yeah.
You know, he's so witty, but he's the type of guy that, again, we always talk about it. The poker face is next level. So the dry humor I have leaned into as funny as we've kind of gotten to know him through press conference settings and through Lacey and screenshots like this. I just thought it was a great example of the strength of their marriage. You know that Eric, obviously, they have been with each other through thick and thin. And as he climbed and scratched and clawed, doing his time, if you will, as a scout, to be where he is now, right? I can only imagine how gratifying that must be for both of them, their partnership, their family. They have beautiful kids, successful kids. I believe Jane, the oldest, just graduated Penn State. So congratulations to her. But it's nice when a public figure like this, right, and Eric is essentially showcased by Lacey, right? She's letting us all in to the dynamic of their marriage. And I think a lot of Ravens fans appreciate following her. And I know you and I do.
Yeah, it's definitely listen, that whole thing is just cute. It's just cute. They got 6 years on me, Bobby. This August, I'll be 18 years.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. So
Nice.
I love it. I love it. And by the way, I love that he follows his gut intuition.
Yeah.
He's like, "I just got a hint of worry, so I'm checking in." Like a lot of times you can talk yourself out of, some of your gut reactions. And in the end, she was fine. But like, always follow your intuition. There's nothing that can go wrong with just checking in. You know what I mean? Follow your gut intuition. Good for EDC. Let's see here. Grace Gill of WJZ put up a video of young fans from Kenwood High School swarming linebacker Roquan Smith because he surprised their teacher, Andrew Goldbeck, with the 2025 M&T Bank Touchdown for Teachers Award. How awesome is that? Andrew, I bet is awesome to get that award. There's so many teachers out there.
Yep.
And it says Roquan presented Goldbeck with a custom jersey and a $5,000 grant. But you got to see this whole video. It's just like they really are swarming him. Like he's trying to walk and they're just like moving along with him, and it's super loud and they're trying to get his attention. And I love every second of it. Did I lose you there?
Are you playing it?
No.
Okay. I thought it was a setup, so I was waiting for you to get your yeah. It's awesome.
I did not bring in the video. I was letting you do the next quick hit. My bad.
It's all good. It's all good. Go check it out.
I was like, are you frozen? But I can
all,
see now that I'm looking back on it, I definitely made it sound like I was about to play the video.
It's totally all good. At Grace H Grill on X. That's how you can find the video. And Roquan, obviously, no stranger to philanthropy and getting involved in the Ravens community, which obviously he's done really since being traded here from the jump, including hanging out with us on a semi-weekly basis a couple of years ago, which we greatly appreciated. You take this one, I'll take the last one.
Okay, this one is just another ESPN article looking at stats. And based off of history, Bobby, the Ravens' chances of getting their restitution, as maybe Shannon Sharp might say, because revenge isn't the right word. Revenge comes in the playoffs. Maybe some restitution a little bit.
Okay.
In week one, it's not going. The history doesn't bode well for the Ravens. Say in week one rematches of playoff games from the previous seasons, the postseason winner has won each of the last 7 contests, including, which we all remember well, the Chiefs beating the Ravens last year in Kansas City, and then also the Detroit Lions defeating the Los Angeles Rams. Furthermore, it will mark the 4th week one matchup all time between an MVP and an MVP runner-up, regardless of position. In each of the following showdowns, the MVP's team came out on top per NFL research. Let me tell you why the Ravens are going to buck that trend. I'll tell you right now. Because the MVP was robbed. It was robbed. Lamar Jackson is the true MVP, and he will show it by getting restitution and a win week one in Buffalo.
It's going to be electric. It's going to be electric rematch, electric way to kick off the season, primetime lights, Buffalo atmosphere, these two going head-to-head, fan bases inevitably eating away at each other all week long and the weeks leading up to it. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. One last note here in quick hits. And Sarah, if you could refresh and get a up-to-date number for us before we re-enter Super Chats and whatnot. Justin Fenton, Baltimore Banner, just noting, and I had heard this as well from a few weeks back through the Baltimore community here, that Justin Tucker's Owings Mills home is hitting the market this week. And this, of course, comes just weeks removed from their decision, the Ravens' decision, that is, to part ways with him based on what they're referring to as a football decision. So we'll see what his career becomes should he continue. And obviously the elephant in the room is, when will the NFL release its findings, if there are findings from the 16 massage therapist allegations that stem back to his rookie year and earlier on in his football career in Baltimore. So
my guess is they will release the findings closer, like right before week one on like a Friday, and people will like have to like move past it quickly because it's week one and everyone wants to get to the games. And it's like Ravens versus Buffalo and whatever other big games they got coming on week one. It'll be Eagles versus, who do the Eagles play again? Is it Commanders? Something big. And so that's what I think will happen.
Eagles schedule, it sounds exactly right. Cowboys and Eagles.
Cowboys, that's it. Cowboys. I knew it was
Prime
somebody
time.
in their division.
Yep.
Time. So that's when I think they'll do it. It'll be like right before week one, and people like can't pay attention to it.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you give us an up-to-date number on where we currently stand?
I sure can. We blew right past 500. Then we blew right past 510, right past 515, right past 520, and we are currently at 525.
And here's how we got here. That is insane that 550 is in play before we get you across the pond. TGIF, this is a new name. Hang on now.
No, but it's a new name, but it's the same profile picture.
Correct. And I'm trying to remember what his name is. because I really recognize the photo of his selfie, but I'm forgetting the former name. It's going to come to me. Thank you, TGIF. I can't believe I've forgotten this name. It's so fun.
Troy.
Troy. Thank you. Troy Gale, right?
Thank you, Tila. Tila told me. I
Troy
didn't come
Gale,
up to
I think.
myself. Yeah.
Yes. I needed that reminder. Thank you. Thanks, Troy. PHP gifted an additional membership. Evan chimed in with 5, and I think he did so, by the way, on a mobile device because I saw a chat of his earlier on. So there you have that. Appreciate you, Evan. Chris M dropping in a 5 spot. What's going on, Chris? Thank you both.
Wait, Chris?
Chris.
OG Chris?
You know it.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Chris is here every day, which I appreciate the support. But Chris, like, I feel like this is new to have 5. Thank you, Chris.
I think this is definitely, I think Chris just definitely made her debut with a 5 spot.
Yeah.
She may have, I think she became a member at one point, and she may have even gifted a membership here and there. But a 5 spot, that's new. Thank you, Chris. Park Heights Prophet dropped in 10, Sarah, on top of what he's already done.
Ooh, he's matching everybody.
Because he's a baller. Joe Jenkins, he wasn't done. He said he was done an hour ago. My man's still dropping in Voltron memberships for us. And Sarah, that brings us to Kobe Pruitt with another one for you.
Mike Green is probably too small to get snaps at weak side outside linebacker. If he's as good as advertised, does he eat into OA snaps and potentially cost him money? Listen, that would be a great problem to have.
Yeah, exactly.
Great problem.
Purple and black drops in.
Not great for OA, obviously.
Not great.
Yeah.
Not great. Good problem for the Ravens. Purple and black gifted 5 channel memberships, so 5 new Voltrons. Appreciate you, P&B. Tila says, hey, if Chris is getting in on the party, that's my girl, and I'm going to back it up and match her, and I'm going to throw in an additional 5 as well. No wonder why we got to where we got to today. All the OGs are flying in with generosity. Park Heights gifted one, and then he says, I haven't done enough. I'm going to give 10 more. PHP in the building. 10 channel memberships. And Sarah, that brings us to a super chat from Dealing with My Grief.
That's a funny, like, I don't know if it's a funny name or a sad name. I don't know which one to do. Dealing with My Grief.
Hopefully the former.
He says, PHP is Josh Allen. He's secretly an LJ8 fan. I like it. We're going with that one. Because he'll be in Buffalo, right, Bobby? That's where he's saying he can meet you?
Oh.
PHP.
Oh, right. He's going to be in Buffalo.
The fact that he's in Buffalo?
Correct.
Have we ever seen PHP and Josh Allen in the same room together? That's the question.
How would that happen? How
can
we make
they're
that happen?
the same person, according to Dealing with My Grief.
It's incredible.
I don't think you were following my joke there for a minute.
I'm
Go
with
ahead.
you now. It took me a second. I was already reading Joe's. I'm sorry. I'm with you now. Joe Jenkins says Kenwood High School is, and that's where Roquan was seen yesterday, is where I graduated from in Essex, Maryland. Eastern Ave and Stemmers Run Road, Kenwood Bluebirds, 1979 to 1982. One Joe Jenkins was roaming the hallways as probably a young baller. Atta boy.
There we go.
Thank
Hey,
you,
I was
Joe.
born in 1979, by the way.
Heck yeah.
The penultimate day, December 30th, penultimate day in 1979.
How about it? Apparently everything was going down in 79. Appreciate you, Joe. Thank you so much. What a 520 plus as you head off for a week plus of vacationing. Can't wait. What do you want to share about? I have one more thing. It's going to be very quickly, but the floor is yours before we jump.
Oh, I don't have much to say, but like, I'm excited about this trip. So my husband loves to travel, and that sounds like a silly thing to say because most people do. I like it, but it can get tiring. It can get really tiring, and I have a hard time keeping up with him sometimes. But so I'm just laying the groundwork. And all these years, I've been like, hey, I'd really like to go to Switzerland. And he never like shoots it down, but he's been there before. And he likes to see like new places. Plus, he is like really afraid of heights. Like, he is not good with heights. And it's like getting worse the older that he gets. You know, Trevor, he's about as calm, cool, and collected as it can get. But on flights, like his palms are sweaty. Mom spaghetti. But he's like, And like if there's like any sort of turbulence, he'll like, it's just like a natural reaction. Like he grabs the head of the chair in front of him. Like it's like a real problem. That's like, you know what I'm saying? So like,
Yeah.
He has never shot down Switzerland. All right. But like, we've been married almost 18 years and we haven't made it. So finally I come to him and I'm like, look, I found this opportunity to go to Switzerland. Do you want to go? And he's like, no, I really don't. I was like, okay, well, what if I take one of the kids? And so my oldest daughter, my two boys were like, love you, but I'm good. Actually, Aiden would have gone, but Gardner was like, nah, I'm good. He's 15 and too cool for me. I mean, most people are too cool for me. Let's be honest. But Aiden would have gone. But then I was like, all right, maybe I'll do this mother and daughter trip. So me and London are going. She's 12. And she is fearless. She is fearless. We will, is weather permitting, please, we will be doing a sweet zip line in the Swiss Alps. Like, this is all I want in my life. I've done a huge zip line in Utah. Jane could probably speak to this. And I mean, it was amazing. And I want to be flying through the air in Switzerland with my 12-year-old daughter right there. We're going to a chocolate making kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like session. We're going to see some cheese factories. We're riding trains to the top of, I think, the top of Europe. It's the highest mountain in Europe. Like, this is so up my alley to be outdoors and in the mountains. Plus, you know, we'll do some city stuff in Geneva and Zurich and all that kind of stuff. But like, to have this experience with my daughter, and I love it when we travel as a family, but it does hit different when you get one-on-one time with your kids and you don't get it that often. Like, I cannot tell you how excited we are to go on this trip tomorrow. It's going to be an absolute blast.
I can't wait to live vicariously, and especially with somebody as sweet and caring and aware as your daughter London is. Like, it's just going to be a blast for you. You guys are already like each other's clones as it is. So, you know, I can't wait to watch this unfold. And I'll tell you, as I've told you in the past, Switzerland for me is a top 3 country.
Woo!
Top 3 experience to date in my 30 years. I've been there twice. Once during my semester abroad when I flew to Madrid to Zurich and did sort of Zurich, and we took a train to Germany and just enjoyed everything. A lot of the things that you've already mentioned. And then just a couple of years ago when my brother was studying abroad in Spain, he and I flew from Madrid to Geneva. And I think one of my all-time favorite memories to date in terms of like day trips and day experiences was taking a coach bus from downtown Geneva, a couple hours to the French border in a small little valley ski and golf town called Chamonix. It's Chamonix. The place is a hidden gem. It was incredible. There was paragliding, literally as you were just describing, through the Alps. There was, what do you call I'm just blanking on the transportation on the way up a ski hill.
Oh, gondola?
There's a gondola that you can take up, or you can hike it if you want. It was such an amazing, picturesque place that just the way that you just described your will-be itinerary, it brought me down to a couple years ago in November. And
did you happen to go to an ice palace? Because that's on the itinerary. And an observation deck that goes out hanging over the mountains. Like, I'm here for all of the, like, it just gives me adrenaline. Did you go to the ice palace?
No, I did not. But Geneva, make sure you guys, I'm sure you will, make sure you take some time to walk along the water there. Okay. And it's such a quaint little town. It's really was one of my, now TJ and I were kind of looking at each other being like, we should have significant others for this trip. This is a little bit too romantic, but it was awesome. You're going to have a freaking blast. I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah. I gotta be good though. You know, I'm bad at taking pictures and video.
Try to.
So I know I gotta be good. So hopefully Lennon will help me out with that.
Dre Dog wishing you well. Take this one.
Oh, he says, Sarah, we love you. Safe travels. And I love you, Dre, and the rest of the Voltrons.
Take this one from Richard, too.
Sure. Climbing the Matterhorn is on my bucket list. Have a great vacation to the Swiss, Sarah. Let's go.
I love it. Absolutely love it. For timing purposes and because I'm going to have plenty of time solo the rest of the week, I'm going to save my one more thing. It's going to be on baby gender reveals. That's coming up
For who?
In general, baby gender reveals.
Oh, just in general. You have thoughts on just the practice?
Got some opinions on the concept.
Can you just do it real quick? I'm going to be gone for like 10 days.
I can't stand the concept.
Why?
I think it takes away from the surprise, anticipation, intrigue, and everything else as you go through the process leading up to like a massive day. Is it my decision? No, it's going to have to be a joint decision between me and my future missus. I'm just telling that future missus. I ain't about it. All right.
I'll say this. For planning purposes, we found out for my first 3 kids. But because by the time the 4th came around and we knew the 4th would be our last and we had things for both boys and girls, we did not have a gender reveal. And it was really fun to like give birth. And then, then they tell you. It is really fun. I will say that. But for planning purposes, it can be helpful.
Sure.
So if you have 4 kids, maybe do a little bit of both.
All right. Maybe that'll be the case. And maybe after 1, I'll revert course.
Yeah.
That's my thought on it. That's a really brief one more thing. More to come on that because the whole thing in terms of why it's on my mind is because of an invitation for a guy that's a longtime friend of mine that wouldn't have been caught dead at a gender reveal, much less hosting a gender reveal, which is exactly what he's doing in Albany coming up next weekend. So more on that to come. Sarah, have an awesome freaking trip. I will obviously hold down the fort here. As everyone knows, we're going to have plenty of content over the course of the next couple of days with press conferences and whatnot, including reaction to Zay Flowers and Todd Monken coming up tomorrow. That's at 2:30, so less than an hour from right now. You will be back when? Just so folks know.
I will be back. So I fly back in on Father's Day.
Okay.
So I'll be back the following Monday.
All righty.
Which is June 16th.
All right. We'll have some guests rotating in and out between now and then. And as we always do, we make it work when each other's getting some deserved time off. Have an awesome time.
Appreciate
give
you.
London my best. And you and I will catch up later this month.
Hey, appreciate you holding down the fort. I really do.
Oh, you know it. You did it for the Buffalo Plague, the Francis Plague, everything else in between. So it goes both ways. I look forward to it. I will catch up with you guys tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern, under 23 hours from right now. I look forward to it. Stick around. We're going to have some different voices and names and faces coming in and out of the program. So we're looking forward to the next couple of weeks and looking forward to hearing everything about Sarah's trip on the other end of that. Safe travels to you and yours, partner. And thank you so much for just another tremendous display of generosity. We are now 500 plus Voltrons deep inside this channel. To think that we rolled out the feature, Sarah, back in March, and now it's just sort of taken on a new life of its own is incredibly gratifying. So thank you all so much. We'll see if we can get to that 6 or 7 number at some point later this week. But until then, for Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trotsett signing off from this Tuesday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. On your way out, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. And as always, Voltrons, thanks for spending some time with us here inside the vault. We'll catch up with you soon.
I see.